Hello and thanks for joining today's webinar entitled Make SAP Easier. My name is Chris Scott and I'm the COO and founder of Arch. Today I'm going to explain how we at Arch make SAP easier and illustrate that with a wide range of demonstrations. Hopefully there will be some really interesting content for everyone. I'm going to begin by talking briefly about our philosophy. Our journey started many years ago with a desire to accommodate the occasional user. So whereas some SAP users were used to the SAP GUI and transactions, many others just needed to make an occasional request or make an approval decision, and the system wasn't designed for them. We needed something simple, something that was easy to understand, that they couldn't get wrong. We needed to talk to users in their own language, not use confusing SAP terminology. We had to provide an alternative interface, a simple form or web app. And we've seen technologies come and go and improve over the years: Adobe Interactive Forms, SAP Screen Personas, and of course Fiori. It's all about simplification, and equally I'd say it's about taking a user-centric approach. More recently, SAP began to focus more on user experience, and the conversation shifted from being about confused occasional users to providing every user with a transformed experience. And we're seeing great advances as the new Fiori themes and approaches continue to be introduced. And user experience is a very interesting topic, because if you really want to adopt a user-centric design, then you have to simplify the user interface and you have to use terminology users understand. And this is all at great odds with trying to keep vanilla SAP, because with SAP, one size fits all. That's the nature of the beast. So the more closely you design something for your own users, then by necessity you are moving away from standard SAP transactions and apps. So people talk about user experience, meaning implementing Fiori Launchpad and Fiori apps. And the Fiori apps are more powerful and simpler than the old transactions, but let's not pretend that you've done anything special for your users by turning on Fiori, because those apps are still the same apps for every user in every industry. Our approach is to focus on every user touchpoint in the business process, whether that is through a web app, a portal, an email, SMS, chatbot, letter, output documents, every interaction your business communities have directly or indirectly with your ERP system. And that gives us a different approach for user-centric design. So when we think of this design, we naturally consider the end-to-end business process. And again, SAP ECC and S/4HANA includes business processes, configurable by industry, but standardized. These will have some kind of fit for every organization, but you need to step away from pre-delivered processes if you desire something closer to a 100% fit. So we build custom processes on SAP ERP so that organizations can achieve a closer fit to their particular needs, and also to digitize and automate all those manual processes that still sit around the edges of core SAP ERP. The problem with those manual processes is, on the one hand, that they're manual, which is time consuming and error prone, and on the other hand, that there is no process visibility and control. By bringing in those manual processes inside SAP ERP, we can make use of the SAP data and the logic. So we can provide essential process visibility, so we can see where something is, and process control, so we can do something about it. So we believe in custom processes with custom apps, because that's how organizations will save money and provide better service than their competition. Our philosophy extends to how we achieve all this. Firstly, and crucially, we work with our customers. We don't do the project to you, we do it with you. We don't drop a team of 20 into your organization. We talk to you to see where you need help most. We don't arrive with industry templates and best practice processes and say we've done it all before. We have always been a small team of experts by design. We embrace your culture and understand your constraints. Every engagement we take on is unique, be it large or small. The technology is changing all the time, so we're always learning, and we don't expect to do anything twice, so we have no reason at all to tell you that we've done something before. Secondly, we don't just provide consulting services, we provide software. We provide our own process platform that installs inside your SAP system to enable the build of the custom processes and apps and provide the crucial process management capability. We've honed this toolset over many years to make SAP easier for developers, administrators, and end users. This combination of software and consulting approach makes us enormously different from other SAP consulting companies. And our customers love us. Just ask them. Let's talk a little more about user experience, and I'm going to start with the entry point. These days, that means Fiori Launchpad, and there's so much opportunity available within Fiori Launchpad, and it's so easy to get it terribly wrong if you don't take care in the design. The entry point, the initial touch point for many users is so important. It really helps to define how your users see your SAP system. Launchpad design can change the perception of the system and create a world where each user feels like they're being supported by the system, not fighting against it. If the Launchpad is just a navigation tool, then something has gone wrong. The little square tiles with the icons add no more value than a menu path inside SAP GUI and take up way more space on the screen. So as we turn the Launchpad into a user-specific dashboard which directs users to what they need to see and what they need to do and provides valuable information to trigger an action with the ability to take action in the fewest clicks and keystrokes, then we're able to provide something really powerful. And that absolutely does not happen by accident. Let's now take a look at the Fiori Launchpad. So I've opened an on-premise Fiori Launchpad in which we've activated Fiori Spaces, so we're using that instead of Fiori Groups, and it's tons better. I've added a standard accounts payable role to my user, so we see the accounts payable tab here with a choice of 4 different pages. Okay. So this is entirely standard S/4HANA out of the box. We see a variety of tiles, each with a little icon, and these are links to Fiori apps or web-based SAP GUI transactions. For example, here's a Maintain Business Partner tile, which links to the transaction BP. So this standard Launchpad is basically a bunch of links, and every page looks pretty similar, tiles with a description and an icon separated into little groups. And honestly, it's not good enough. We can do better. We should do better. Well, we can enhance each and every tile on every page to either bring it to life or provide valuable dashboard functionality. We do that using our Tile Builder product, which enables you to add lots of customizations to your tiles. For example, we can add images, either small images or images that cover the entire tile, to replace those pretty meaningless icons. We support 2 different sizes of tile, giving you greater scope to achieve a greater impact. Everything you see can be dynamic, so that those images can change in real time based on back-end data. And you can see we also support microcharts, and all the data is driven by simple ABAP functions. The charts can change dynamically, the colors and text can change, so we can present key information in a way to alert the user and direct their behavior. Although we support tiles with custom code as well, with Tile Builder, the tile development is code-free. Of course, you need to link the tile to your data source, but you do all that in the Launchpad Designer, not in Web IDE. And of course, you can mix standard tiles alongside Tile Builder tiles when designing your pages and spaces. With Tile Builder, you can really easily create tiles to dramatically improve Fiori Launchpad and turn the Launchpad into a dashboard. But you do need to spend time designing your Launchpad. It's not just about user roles. And of course, it's not just about the entry point for us. It's about the Fiori apps and embracing each and every user touchpoint in the end-to-end process. I like to loosely group these touchpoints into data collection and data consumption. Data collection is where the user is making requests or updates. Data consumption is where the user is receiving outputs or reports. And I know that some interactions involve a mixture of both. So let's start with a data collection example. We've created a really simple Fiori app for new supplier request using Stalo, our product for Fiori app processes. Let's return to the Launchpad and navigate to our new supplier request. So here on my Stalo page, I have created a tile for a new supplier request. And of course, I use Tile Builder to put an image on that tile. Let's trigger that request now. The first thing I see is a splash page. That asks me whether I want to trigger a new request, pick up an existing request saved as draft, or look at the history of my previous requests. This is a standard option for all Fiori apps generated using Stalo. In this instance, we're going to make a new request, so I'll select the option New. Here we see a very simple app which has 5 small sections set out in a grid layout. We haven't bothered changing field lengths. This is pretty much as generated. Now, because it's a standard Fiori app, it supports smaller screen sizes. So if I were to make the browser smaller, you can see the fields arrange themselves into a stack. A bit like with the tiles, a lot of the field parameters we see here are dynamic and driven from the SAP backend. This means that I can make changes to this app without using code. Let me illustrate that in a couple of ways. Firstly, let's see if we notice that there are a couple of fields here that we've made mandatory. The company name and the country both have that little red asterisk. If we were to try to submit this request without those fields, we see an error and the mandatory fields are highlighted. In real life, of course, we'd expect to see many more mandatory fields. I'm going to briefly show you under the bonnet now and go to a configuration screen. So here I've navigated to the configuration page to show the fields of this app at this particular status, initial status. And I see my list of field names on that app, and I can change parameters for each field to make it either read-only or mandatory or displayed or hidden. So let's go ahead now and make the postcode field mandatory and then save that. So here's the postcode field. I'll make that mandatory and save. Okay. And so back in the app, let's just refresh this browser. And now you can see that the postcode field has become mandatory. Again, if I was to submit that, we would see that 3 fields now need to be filled before that particular app will be saved. Let's look at another example. Let's imagine that this app was going to be rolled out in America so that the word postcode really would be easy to understand if it said zip code. Similarly, for the banking details, rather than sort code, we might expect to see account key. So those fields, these captions, are also changeable elements within the backend configuration. Here I've brought up a separate configuration screen so that again I see the list of fields for this particular app. I see a caption and I can change that caption. This is where I could translate it into different languages too. So here I'll change postcode and we'll put zip code in. I'll change sort code to account key, bank key I think. And save. Now, of course, we could add logic here so that for some countries we saw some description and other countries we saw a different description. We'll go ahead and refresh this browser session again. And you see immediately that the two captions have been changed. So this is very powerful. I'm changing this Fiori app in front of your eyes without doing any development. So okay, let's actually do a request now. Now notice when I add the zip code, there is an immediate check to see if there are already any suppliers in the system with the same postcode. And here I have a choice to abandon this request or to continue. Of course, in real life there will be many other fields we want to collect. I've just chosen a few common fields to keep it simple. Okay, now we're happy with all the data that we've added, and so we can go ahead and submit. And we see that this request has been given a unique ID, and this will go for approval before the supplier is created in the system. So you see, with Stalo, we're not tied to any standard SAP process or standard SAP terminology. We can make things really simple and perform checks to make sure that the user isn't asking for anything daft. The next part of the process is the approval step. And this gives us an opportunity to think about data consumption because we're going to trigger a notification alert to the approver. Now, I think of data consumption as either pull, where the user requests some data or output through an app or a portal or chatbot, or as push, where SAP sends data to users triggered by a system event or a background job. And this could be email, PDF attachment, SMS, or for your Launchpad notification. In this example, we'll imagine that the approver doesn't spend all day looking at an SAP inbox, so we'll send them an email. So our successful request will have triggered an email notification. So this time I'll be taking on the role of approver. So we'll open up Outlook, and then we'll see a notification email has arrived. And here it is. I can make that a bit bigger. And we can see that it's been sent from the purchasing department there, and that I have a new supplier request to approve. I've got a link to my inbox, and I have a button here to link to the specific request, and there's a nice banner. So I'll click on the View Request button. This takes me back into Fiori Launchpad. So now I'm the approver. It takes me back into the request, and at this point all the fields become read-only, so I can't make any changes. But I can see all the details that have been added, including the comments. So all I can do now is approve or reject and add a comment. So I shall add a comment and then approve. And again, I see a confirmation message. Now in the background, we trigger the supplier creation, and then we trigger another email, this time to notify the requester of the new supplier number. This should all happen very quickly. So if I open up Outlook once again, I should see the new email. So here we see again I can make it a little bit bigger. The email has come from the purchasing department. It tells me that the new supplier has been created, that my request ID has been approved, and the new supplier ID is provided to me as well. And there's a button to see the new supplier, so I'll hit that. That takes me back to Fiori Launchpad and opens up the supplier fact sheet so that I can see the pertinent details for this particular supplier. And there we go, the Ever So Good Corp is there. We can in fact go to see that same, just grab that number. We can see the same thing in the business partner as well. Here it is. Okay. And we can see that 4 different business partner roles have been created. So we've got purchasing data in the supplier, for example. We've got accounting data as well. We've got relationships, so that contact I asked for, John Lennon, has been created as a separate business partner and then attached to this one. So quite a lot of related updates all happened to create this business partner. So taking something like a supplier that has potentially hundreds of fields inside S4HANA, we've just concerned ourselves with the specific data that matters to us. The users involved haven't had to worry about anything else other than the data that they know and understand. The email design is achieved using Flow, our SAP email product, and later on I'll show you the Flow Designer. Okay, I've started off by talking about user experience, including the entry point and subsequent touch point, and this inevitably led me down the track of talking about process, because in real life, every organization has a different process to request and approve the creation of suppliers. It may involve multiple approval steps or manual checks and be a lot more complicated than the creation of a business partner in S/4HANA. The process we build can include steps for those additional checks outside SAP so that we can see exactly what has been done and how far through the process we are. Now, there are lots of different app building tools, and some of them are pretty low code, but the difference with our approach is that our apps are truly integrated inside the SAP system with a workflow engine and tools for process administration. So let's look at the Stalo dashboard, which is one process management tool. I start off again from the Launchpad. This time I select the Stalo dashboard app. I'm going to add a document type filter in order to see only the new supplier requests. And I'm going to select the status of posted just to see the ones at the end of the process. And let's apply that filter. So here I see a list of the new supplier requests, when they were created and by whom. I'll select the most recent one, which should be ours from today. And here I can see all the data in the request. Now, using the audit trail option, I can see visually the path that this request took. It started off with no data. It was submitted with some data added. Then it was approved with some additional comments, and then it was posted into SAP. And with the Stalo dashboard, we can actually unwind time to see what the data was at a previous status. I would be able to see any attachments that were added at that particular status, and I also see a developer console, so that again, for each status, I can see all the data that was sat behind that app and the event log. So we can see at the submitted status, for example, there's only one comment added, and at the complete status or the approved status, we should see that extra comment added. I've used the same user each time, but of course the second time I acted as the approver. Now, this dashboard isn't specific to our new supplier app. It works for every Fiori app we generate using Stalo. So with Stalo, you get process visibility and control for every custom app out of the box. Now, I've used this word dashboard a couple of times, and for completeness, I should mention Fiori overview pages. These consist of cards which can contain little reports or graphs with navigation options to take you to more detailed reports or to other objects in the system. SAP delivers some example overview pages, and of course there is enormous potential benefit if you build your own. The point is that dashboards provide instant insights in the user's faces to drive swift user action. And that means better work prioritization and faster reaction time. And also it means that fundamentally the business process is different because there is a new trigger point. The design of those trigger points is really interesting. And again, you're not going to get something really valuable by accident. Now, here at Arch, we don't provide software to build better overview pages. We use the same tools as everybody else. But if you develop custom overview pages as part of an analytics project without appreciating the change in business process, then you're missing the point. I haven't had time to build something custom for this webinar, so I'll just show you one of the pre-delivered of SAP overview pages, which will help me show another point. Okay, so now we're going to look at a sales example and open up the internal sales space here. And this is standard S/4HANA out of the box once again. On the first page, I see some insights options, and I'm going to select my sales overview. And this opens up the overview page. We get a chance to filter the results, and in this instance we just need a currency, and then we can apply that filter. I'll hide the filter, and here we see a number of cards which can include lists, they can include graphs, and they're terrifically powerful for building amazing dashboards. Typically, we can open up analytical apps, or we can navigate to specific documents. In this case, I'm going to select an open sales order using the open sales orders card here. And let's choose the top one here, 4170. Now, this takes me to an old favorite sales order display transaction. And from here, I'm going to select the header output preview option, which is going to generate a preview of the sales order output. And now what we see here is not so standard. So rather than seeing a print preview of a SAP script or a Smart form or an Adobe form, I'm seeing an email preview. And once again, this has been generated by Flow, our SAP communication product. We see the recipients, and there is one, just me. We see attachments, and we can see there is one, a PDF attachment, which I can download if I so choose. And then we see the email body, which, unlike standard SAP emails, is rich in graphics and colors and has all the pertinent details from the sales order. So actually, in many cases, there is no need for a PDF attachment because everything can be included inside the email body, and this can be saved or printed. Now, this makes SAP easier for your business partners. The communications they receive are another important touch point in your SAP processes. So here I've shown you how you can navigate from a row in a table, in a card, in an overview page to open up a separate app about that particular document. And happily, we've seen another use case for Flow, which is document output. This sales order will trigger an email with all the information we need inside the email rather than needing a separate PDF attachment. I've spoken quite a bit now about custom processes and process change, and this brings us to the topic of process modeling and process transformation. And one of our new capabilities this year is in Signavio, which is SAP's solution for process transformation. I'm not going to demonstrate that today. I just want to highlight Signavio because it consists of tools that are really useful for understanding your current process and determining the impact of making changes to those processes. And what I find interesting about Signavio really is that paradigm shift for process transformation to be an ongoing process in itself rather than a project-based activity. And the final point I want to make about process transformation is that the solutions to transform processes are increasingly outside SAP. We might find ways to automate updates using RPA, which can save money on easy repetitive tasks. We might find ways to trigger processes inside S/4HANA based on intelligence gathered from Internet of Things. And that might be entirely new business processes. And we might find the need to integrate processes inside SAP ERP to the blockchain. So there are lots of manufacturing, sales, and supply chain opportunities there. So we think way wider than what's already running inside S/4HANA. With the tools and approaches I've described, we make SAP easier for users, for business partners or process participants, for managers, and for administrators. We also make SAP easier for consultants and developers by providing a standardized way of building custom processes with our product suite. I don't intend to cover every product in the suite right now. Today I've only mentioned Stalo, Flow, and Tile Builder. We only suggest the solutions that really address your particular needs. But given that I'm advocating custom processes, easy maintenance is utterly crucial. So it's really important to us to ensure that where possible, code is generated and customizations are managed in standard ways, and that support is really easy to find and clear to follow. Now I'm going to briefly walk through Flow Designer to show you how easy it is to maintain an output template. So here is Flow Designer. It's a template designer for email, SMS, PDF, and HTML. It consists of 5 parts. Manage emails, which are the templates for those different types of output. Manage library, which is where we can manage and define template fragments that can be used in multiple different templates. A test trigger, which is where we generate output in test mode for any of the different scenarios. Attachment repository, which is where we can store static documents like terms and conditions that we may want to attach to emails, for example. And finally, the image repository, which is our cloud-based storage for any images used in any of the templates. And you can see I've used the same cloud-based storage to use some of my images for Tile Builder 2. So on the flow.com website, we have a full demonstration video that explains each section. What I'm going to do today is make a little change to our sales order output template, which is OR01. Now, as I select a block, a rich text editor appears at the bottom. And I can change any text or any content here really very easily, just like using Microsoft Word. Choose a different option here. And you can see we're using a table here to arrange our fields left to right. What I'm going to do is just change a caption. And let's change the customer reference caption to be your reference. And save. Okay, that's it. I've made a change to my template. Let's go back and see the impact if I try to issue a new order output. So we'll go back to my Launchpad, into internal sales. We can get there more than one way. We'll go to my sales overview again. Select that same sales order and preview the output. So I can see immediately that that change has been made and applied to that output template straight away. So there's no SAP script, no smart form, no Adobe form. This is something expert users can take on themselves. It's tons easier to maintain the outputs with Flow than any other type of template inside SAP. Hopefully today you've managed to tune in to who Arch is, what we do, and why we're different. I'm going to finish up with some key takeaways. Arch makes SAP easier. So better user experience, better processes, easier maintenance, which is so important. Secondly, custom processes deliver enormous value. You have to look beyond vanilla SAP to realize that value. Thirdly, it's all about every single user touchpoint, starting with the entry point and every direct or indirect participation in that business process. Fourthly, dashboards mean new processes. They have to trigger different user behavior, otherwise they're just a collection of reports. Fifthly, Fiori Launchpad is either priceless or worthless. And priceless launchpads don't happen by accident. They need careful design. And six, your new processes are not bound by ERP functionality. You need to think beyond what your S/4HANA system or ECC system already does. That might involve RPA, IoT, or blockchain processes. And finally, sometimes you need an external view to see the opportunities in front of you, as otherwise your viewpoint is defined by your current systems and your current processes. Change is hard, and it's not free, and it requires a long-term view. People all over the organization resist it based on time, on effort, and on cost. It's hugely important to identify key stakeholders and involve them in the full journey. So Arch has expertise and products to help you identify opportunities, design new processes, and help you deliver the process transformation. And we do it with you, not to you. So thank you ever so much for your time today. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with us or with me directly if you'd like to discuss any requirement. We would love to be of assistance. Find out more at www.archglobal.com. Contact me at chris.scott@archglobal.com. Thank you again. Goodbye.